Hello, found footage fans, and welcome to We Found a Tape. Join us as we hit play and uncover what lies beyond the tape. Welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of We Found a Tape. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite found footage movies. I think this is one that everyone who is a fan of found footage has to watch at least once in their lifetime. And it is from 2012, and it's Chronicle.
Oh yeah, everybody get your foil hats on. We're going back in time.
Yeah. This is probably more so quite a topical pick for us, mainly because one of the main cast members from this movie from 14 years ago has just won an Oscar for Best Actor in Michael B. Jordan. This is quite a star-studded cast. Although not at the time it wasn't star-studded, looking back on it now because of the trajectory of their careers. But all three of the main cast in this are, famous actors. So.
Funny story, a funny little bit. When Michael B. Jordan started making, waves as far as a known actor, it's funny. I thought at first, because I never heard of this dude before. I mean, I've probably seen him in like Chronicle, for example, when it first came out, but I had no idea who he was. I think when I first started taking notice when he came out in that shitty Fantastic Four movie, and I thought he was Michael Jordan's son because it was Michael B. Jordan. So I was like, for the longest time, I thought he was his son, but no, apparently they're not related. So
Michael Jordan Jr.
yeah, it's like, damn, you're not gonna. That's cool. You're not gonna follow in his footsteps, and you're gonna go and be an actor. So, but yeah, they're not related. So
No.
I've lied to myself. This is why you do research, okay?
Yeah. And then as well, I mean, Black Panther, Creed, the Creed movies.
Yeah.
He was part of those. Just an absolute superstar, and just such a good actor. Like I really found that Chronicle, the standout was really just the performances of these three guys. Like I think that is the main forefront of the film. It's just how well all of them played their part in the film as teenagers. It's pretty crazy. Again, seeing their trajectory in film and cinema and the impact on popular culture.
Right.
Everyone was loving Sinners at the Oscars this year, and Sinners, for me, I went to see it in the movies twice. It was great.
That was a great movie, man. That whole now, mind you, I was high as a kite when I saw this. Right, the first time that I had seen Sinners was that whole bit where they were inside of the barn, and they were having the whole live music where the nephew was playing, and then it started switching different eras of music and different artists and things like that. I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? How did we go to time travel? Like, I was so fucking I don't know, man. I was just so out of it. Like, I thought I was on a time travel thing. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought this was a vampire movie. What's going on here? But I see what they were doing there. But I mean, it's a fucking epic movie all the way around. I mean, if you didn't like Sinners, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're on an island by yourself, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. We also have Dane DeHaan, who plays Andrew in the film. He is, a troubled kid who has this horrible upbringing. We'll go more into it. And then we also have Alex Russell, who is an Australian actor, and he's done a bunch of stuff as well. So this was a great one.
Yeah, this was really, really good one. it's weird how I know the movie starts out, showing the I forgot his name, Andrew, um, in an abusive household, right? The father's drunk, he's banging on his door trying to get in, things like that. And that's pretty much how the whole film starts, right? It starts going barreling down, friends meeting up and hanging out, things like that. I believe it was outside of a party, or I don't know, maybe refresh my memory a little bit, but it was outside of a party or a gathering or something where they found the hole in the ground when they were outside shooting the shit and fucking around. And it's really weird because this is the part where I got lost as far as like the origin of it. Like, I mean, it looked like it was a meteor that struck into the ground, and it's something otherworldly. But I don't know if it was just a cave that got dug out, and they just happened to find the hole, and this thing that's just gleaming inside, something that was Earth based. I really didn't catch on to this part. And mind you, I saw this when it first came out back then, so I really didn't remember too much other than these kids had superpowers and some of the action sequences and stuff like that. But as far as the story, I really didn't have too much to go on until I watched it again earlier today. But yeah, the whole like glowing rock with crystals on it and things like that, very Supermanish, should we say?
Yeah, that's a very good point. It is quite Superman. One thing I noticed is that when they go down there, they start to touch on it and stuff, and you could see there was almost these like living organisms or like vines crawling across it. You could hear the sort of slithering across this like crystallized rock that was deep in the ground, and you really don't know anything about it, which I think adds to the mystery.
Right.
You're really set into it because again, it really starts off with a bang, literally a bang on the door, and that really cements like who Andrew is. Like you see from the start, his mother's sick, his dad's an abusive alcoholic, so he's already drawn the short straw. Probably, and you could tell that he's sort of filled with some sort of resentment, rage, and just disdain for his life at that point. And yeah, it's really quite sad seeing his character progression right at that very start, because he's bullied, he's being picked on by people at school, neighborhood bullies. No one really wants to be associated with him,
Right.
except for his cousin, who's Matt. Matt's it does. There feels like a kind of a bit of a strain, especially in that beginning part where you almost feel like he's hanging out with him to kind of because he feels sorry for him,
Right.
kind of taking him under his wing and sort of looking out for him, but not really a friendship per se. And you can see, I mean, he drives him to school, and he's got this camera, and he's just really filming out of necessity. He's had enough, and he's documenting his life at home, and he just sort of bleeds that into his school life, and meeting all these people and being around school and classmates, and just having a camera about is probably not a great idea in a school. It probably makes you stand out. People think you're a creep or a weirdo because you're just
Right.
filming. Because at one point he's sitting in the bleachers eating lunch, by himself, and the school cheerleading squad are practicing down on the field, and one of them comes up and was like, "Can you stop filming? Like, it's creepy." He's like, "Oh, I wasn't filming you guys. I was just filming, myself," type thing. And they're like, "Well, stop. It's creepy."
It's very Elijah Wood from The Faculty.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good reference. One movie that I actually watched again relatively recently was The Faculty. So yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, that sort of loner who just doesn't, just has a camera and is just hanging out.
Very much an outcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's very funny. If I'm not mistaken, I think somebody was rebooting the faculty?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. It sounds familiar.
I mean, I feel like it's A24 because I mean they do anything and everything. So, I mean, if I was going to say that anybody's doing it, it's probably them. But I don't know. I could be wrong on that one.
Yeah,
It's one of those
maybe.
things that you hear passively online, kind of 50-50 if it's true or not these days. So much AI posters and people making movie sequel like posters or advertisements of sequels to movies and stuff like that. So it's
Totally.
really hard to tell these days.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or Blumhouse. Blumhouse is another one that
Or
likes to
Blumhouse.
reboot the shit out of stuff. So that could be one too. But yeah, Faculty was class, man. I loved the Faculty. So good,
Yeah.
so many great people in it. Another all-star cast at the time who were relatively young, but really showed
And
promise.
just about everyone in that movie came out to be top stars. I mean, Elijah Wood already was with Lord of the Rings and things like that, but Josh Hartnett, um, what's his name, Sean, is it Hatosy? I forgot his name, the curly haired kid, the ginger.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know his name.
Yeah, that's his name. It's Sean Hatosy or Hatosy. I can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
But one of the more recent in the last few years TV shows that he did was that one with the brothers. It's based off an Australian movie, Animal Kingdom.
Oh, no, I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, that's a really good show, man. If you ever get a chance to watch it, it's a really good show. It wrapped up a few years back, but it's a really good show. It's about a family of brothers and the mother. They do heists, and it's just the shit that they go through in the process and all the jobs they do and stuff like that. Shit they come across. So it's pretty good. It's a good show.
Well, pretty sick. Yeah, I'll check it out for sure. Animal Kingdom, you said it was called?
Animal Kingdom.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, star jam-packed movie, The Faculty. But switching gears back to Chronicle, we kind of got off topic there a bit, but that's normal on a podcast. You can rant and rant. But anyways, so they did find this rock, and like you said, the veiny things on it, moving alive, all moist and whatnot. And I also noticed at some point, I don't know if you noticed, but Michael B. Jordan's character gets really close up to one of the spikes of the crystals, and you can see like the moisture being sucked off of his face. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, I didn't see that. No, but
At least that's
one
what it looked like to me.
yeah, I mean that could have been the case. Yeah, I know that they were off touching it. Like to me, that creeped me the hell out. And it's funny because so just before they find the hole, during the day and when they're at school, it's Matt who's like, "There's a party later, you should come," and he's trying to get Andrew to come out of his shell a little bit, and so he gets him to go to the party, and before that we see like all the posters for like Steve to be class president, and they're plastered all over the lockers and all that, and when they go to the party. And again, he's bullied. He's just walking around with his camera, filming the party, and Matt's just like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. Like people are gonna think you're weird. And he gets in a confrontation with some guys like, "Are you filming my girlfriend?" And then he like punches
Yeah.
him or something. You don't
Yeah.
really see it, but it cuts and he's like sitting outside, and he's like crying. He's just really upset. And that's how we're introduced to Steve. Steve comes over and he's like, "Oh, hey, like, are you okay? Like, oh, is that a camera?" And you're like, Matt is. I've been hanging out with Matt, and we found this thing, and we want you to come and film it. So like, he immediately like gets up, and it just sort of goes to show. It plants the seeds like early on, I think, for the characters. For Andrew, it plants the seed that he's just this little like quiet but very rage-filled. Steve is like a politician. That's his aspirations. So he's very much like quite empathetic and really like a people person. And then there's Matt, who's kind of philosophical and kind of, on the surface tries to play it cool, but he's very like philosophical at heart. So he'll like quote loads of things. But they pull him over and they go to the hole. And the first thing, like, looking down it, I was like, fuck that. I would look at it and but Steve fucking jumps down. He just no hesitation hops right down the hole. Don't even know how deep it is. Just like hops down like ooh.
Yeah, and that very much that early on in the movie has developed the characters in their own, individual styles and personalities. But yeah, he just jumps right on in there, just jumps right down the hole, no lube at all. He's just ready for it. So he just dives right on in. But yeah, I would definitely have thrown a rock down there to see how far down it goes, flash a flashlight down there, something.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so there's like a kind of like a timeline of events that happens like after they go down there, but the way it came off to me is that they ended up finding it before, and this was their first time actually going down to go and check it out, but they had found the hole before, was my understanding. And they were just, because he had the camera, they were like, oh yeah, you need to come and film this because it was nearby. And then once they go down, or just before they go down, they get the big rush of like sound that comes up.
Yeah,
loud as hell. Just
yeah,
crazy
the sound.
there.
Yeah, and I guess you can be curious at that point, like what the hell is making that sound in the ground, and make your way in there. But I mean, it was like a whole cave system. Like it didn't go straight down into something. Like it went down then in.
Right. Yeah. It went like curved almost. So I mean, it could have. I don't think it's Earth made. I think it's probably fallen from the sky, and I think it's probably when it's hit the Earth, it's kind of burrowed and maybe slanted based on like an angle, maybe.
And I guess to add to your point too, with all the veins and things moving around on it, it could very well be alive and just burrowing itself further into the ground too, and creating the whole cave system just to protect itself. So I mean, who's to say it's not intelligent and thinking on its own? You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah. But yeah, once they've touched it, it starts to glow red, and that's when the camera. And I found this out after the second watch. I feel like I wasn't paying it close enough attention when I first watched it, the last time before this one, where it actually breaks the camera that he has with him. He has this like big camera that he is walking around with.
Oh wow, I did not notice that.
It breaks his camera, yeah. Because there's a comment that I think it's Steve or Matt, one of them says it, because they comment that he's got a new camera and it's smaller and much easier to carry about and less weird looking.
Because you're not carrying this big ass camera,
like a news crew or whatever. So yeah.
Have you ever held one of those cameras before?
Have I ever filmed with one of them?
No. Have you ever held one?
No, not like a mounted one that goes on the shoulder. No.
I can imagine it's got to weigh a pretty good amount.
The most I ever had was like this.
Yeah.
Like a handicam type thing. So, this was probably my my biggest experience with it. My grandpa probably had one. He was big into video and tech and all that.
Right.
But yeah, it breaks the camera, and it really jumps ahead 3 weeks. It doesn't, and one thing I liked about it, it doesn't give like a 3 weeks later type thing. It's just like a passing comment where they just say, "Oh yeah, it's been 3 weeks," and it's what would scare me though is when they go back to the hole and they actually see that it's like caved in, because thinking of that and like what everything that happened with them, like imagine that happened and it caved in while they were in there.
That's true. Yeah. But But you got to think too, like when if it did cave in, like when they were in there, did they have the strength and power already to burrow themselves out?
Well, see, the thing is, they I don't know that they would have known about it in that exact moment because it's just sort of happened to them. So I don't know necessarily that they would know about it at that point, um, to be able to like push themselves out. Because if there's a cave in, there's going to be a lot of dirt and a lot of ground and a lot of rocks and all that sort of flowing in on you, and you're kind of trapped. It could be like an outward burst of emotion could like cause that to happen, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah, interesting little theories that go on there that they don't explain, but
Yeah.
still gives you enough to continue with the story. They've after the 3 weeks they're doing the baseball test. They're testing out their skills. Um, I really enjoyed that part. It was so funny because it's like three friends just bullshitting around and telling each other, not to throw the ball so hard, underhand it, and he clearly overhands it, and hits him right in the face with the baseball. So that was good back and forth. And then you've got the payback coming where now it's swapped and the other person has the ball. They're like, "You're gonna underhand it, right?" "Oh yeah, I'm gonna underhand it." He overhands it, throws it at him, and I thought it was super cool that they even threw it sideways and it still came around and hit the other guy in the head.
Yeah, and it really showed that they were putting a lot more thought into what was happening because that would be such a strange experience that you really don't really know what's happening to you. And
Right,
but the bond the three of them now share
right.
is one point that I really put down in my notes is like at that point that's when they start to bond with each other, particularly with Andrew and Steve, because Andrew starts to open up a bit up to Steve about his family life and what's going on with his dad, and tell him a bit more about how his mum's sick and his dad was a fireman and he got injured and now he's just doing nothing and but drinking all day and collecting the insurance. So that's when I picked up on the fact that him and Steve were really starting to bond, and it really makes it heartbreaking towards the climax of the film.
Right.
Um, but yeah, the childish games that come with it, you could tell that they're teenagers when they have these pranks
Right.
because they're doing things like they use the leaf blower to blow the girl's skirt up so that they could see what kind of underwear she was wearing. Um,
Typical high school guy thing to do.
yeah, um, they were moving carts at the grocery store. At
Oh, the
the
good one was the lady that parked their car and walked away, and Michael B. Jordan's character moves the car,
yes,
and then they're just laughing at her, looking for the car, and she's looking at him. "Oh, don't mind us. We're just Mormons."
yeah, and another one is when they're like, you see that guy over there, and he's got like the little crocodile thing that it, like jumps forward, and like the little like thing. Um, he's like, yeah, you see that guy over there? Yeah, I'm gonna pull the gum from his mouth because he's like chewing gum and all that. So they try and do it, and he pulls too hard, and he just goes flying into the stall and just smashes everything again. And they turn around and run away, and it's Steve is like, "Why you running? Why are we running? Why are you running? We didn't do anything." And it makes him look as if I don't know how, but like yeah, when they're playing with the Lego as
Yeah,
well,
that was really cool.
and then Andrew's like you could tell Andrew's the one that focuses on it more than the other two, especially in the early, like the early stages. I guess, because he's more so a bit of a loner. He spends time really thinking and really starts to manipulate things in a way that he can use this to his advantage. And again, that really speaks to the character development that's really prominent in this film, really from the get go. And another thing I liked was when they're at like the diner or whatever, and he stabs Matt's hand with a fork, and the fork just like bends and like is all like scattered, and he's just like,
So if I'm not mistaken here, is it all just psychic powers, or do they actually have strength as well?
so I think it's because Steve at one point starts looking it up and he reads out that it's telekinesis. So telekinesis is where you can manipulate objects, elements, like things around you with your mind. So basically, you're controlling that when something like comes towards you, you can control it to get as close as you like. So I don't think it actually hits his hand. Like he like controls it so
He
that
controls the split before it gets to his hand.
So it's almost like a field, like a force field. Is my understanding, sort of slightly up on his hand, so that when it hits it, the force of it bends the object.
I see. It's kind of like a telekinetic, like force field or bubble.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of this feels very telekinetic, and it gives me a lot of Brightburn. Like it feels like
Yeah,
if they were
I was
like
going to mention that.
like Brightburn is definitely more like a sort of Superman inspired thing.
It definitely turns more bright burnish towards the end of the movie because of
True.
the character Andrew takes a very left turn towards the end of the movie, but we'll get to that shortly. But yeah, it's very much like how can I say this? It's got a little bit of like bonding, some action, some sci-fi, of course, because they've gained powers from this unknown thing. Then it turns to horror towards the end because all the shit that the the uh, the outfall or result of all the shit that happens in between. But yeah, it's this is a crazy movie, man. It's super good, and you can tell right away too that it is a higher budget movie, right? Because with all the things that they're doing, that they're moving with their mind, you can tell that it's not cheaply made. Everything is done so well as far as the CGI, things like that. So it's definitely a higher budget, found footage movie. And then of course, these actors weren't as big as they were, so being some of their first projects, I'm sure that it didn't cost too much or to pay too much, to make it, as far as hiring the actors.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I definitely feel like it was early in their careers. The budget for this was about 15 million, and it was a great success because its box office was 126.6 million. So it
Wow.
very much overperformed what the budget was, which is great. And it gets good reviews. Anyone that sees it really really digs it, and anyone I've recommended it to has really dug it as well, which is great. And really, it just as they're sort of having that camaraderie, they're really showing the fun element of it. That's when it takes the turn for me into a darker turn, because that's when we really show that Andrew is a bit less empathetic than the rest of them. When they're driving in the rain and there's like the guy riding up on them honking and stuff, and he just knocks him off the cliff, and they all freak out, which rightly so. It shows that human quality to both Matt and Steve, that they immediately stop the car, they run down, they see the cars went into the lake or the river or whatever, and it's just slowly going down. So they immediately dive in, pull the guy out of the water, and Matt's on the phone to the police, try to get emergency services to come and help the guy. And the whole time, it's Andrew who's just like, he's fine, we don't need to get the police involved, we don't need to do this, we don't need. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, this like we have to help this guy. And it's at that point when they start to their view of him starts to change a little bit, especially Matt. I know because Matt's his cousin, he kind of is a bit harder on him than Steve is. Steve's still that empathetic guy. But at that point, that's when they start to put in rules where they can't use it on living things, don't use it in anger, and don't use it in public. So from there, it just kind of fucks it.
For me, as you're talking about the whole dark turn and creating rules, that old Spider-Man quote from Uncle Ben rings true here. With great power comes great responsibility, and it shows you in the very beginning. Oh yeah, you got these powers, everything is fun, we're doing all this cool shit, but you use it the wrong way, this is what happens.
Absolutely.
And I think with Andrew, the damage from home, all the stuff that he's gone through, being a loner, being alone, things like that, has affected him mentally. Now that you have this power, you've already, done something dark. What's to stop you from keeping going? Because it's one of those things as a human being that you do something evil and dark. Well, you've already done it once. Why can't you do it again? And it just spirals into bigger and worser things as we continue down this road.
Oh yeah.
And then as soon as all this is happening, there's already started to be like a break or like a mistrust already between the three, because this has happened already. The other two were cautious about it, but with Andrew's character, he's very non-caring, oh well, whatever. In this whole process, they're figuring out now they can fly, and comes into the Superman superhero type thing, where although it's a psychic thing, they very much have honed in their powers at this point where they can make themselves fly, not only move things, not only manipulate things, but also be able to fly great distances, great heights. And it's another fun thing for them to figure out, because now they're up there with the airplane. The airplane swoops by them. Michael B. Jordan's character falls to the ground. I keep forgetting the name. It's Steve, right? Yeah, Steve falls to the ground. One of them catches him. It's a moment of joy, because he didn't die, and he's hugging his friends like, thank you, you saved my life. He's happy to be alive. He's a happy guy.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and it's Andrew that saves him, which is immediately the bond between the three of them really is shown off there, because the plane flies past and like clips Steve, and he just goes down. And probably a fear is probably how he lost his concentration, and Andrew like immediately darts down, keeps the camera on him, and saves Steve. And he's like, whoa. He's like, you saved my life, And he's like, and you brought the camera? Did you get that shot on film? And they're all like, rejoicing. I can fly. And then the next part is really just them they're talking about like it's endless possibilities really at that point. They're talking about like where they would want to travel to, where they're going to fly to. Basically, one of them wants to go to like Hawaii, the other one wants to go to Tibet. Andrew wants to go to Tibet with like the Buddhist monks and stuff like that. And again, another plot point that comes into play at the climax of the film. It's crazy, because they really are still bonded through all of this at that point, and what happens after is really just such a sad thing.
Yeah.
And especially when they're all rejoicing, they're like, hey guys, this is gonna sound dumb, but like today was the best day of my life. They're like having like a sleepover type thing, and the three of them are all still awake, and he's got it to the point where Andrew can control the camera and like have it float.
Right.
So there's really cool shots throughout of just this floating camera, and that's when they're all like, yeah, today's the best day that's ever happened to me. And they all continue to just grow together, and Steve and Andrew, again, I think they're the ones that really get this bond together. I think Steve has that empathy to him that he almost wants to take care of Andrew. I feel like he sees that he's troubled and kind of wants to save him himself. He saved his life, so he's now, wanting to save him.
Indebted, or feels indebted.
Yeah, like a debt to him. Yeah, that's a very good point. And that's where we find out that he wants to lose his virginity, and then they're like, well, you should do the talent show, and they're like really pushing Andrew to like. I feel like this ultimately pushes him too far, because he ends up doing the talent show and he becomes this like crazy, everyone wants to talk to him now. So he's went from literally no one wanting to talk to him to everyone, including women who want to talk to him and want to be around him and shit like that. And I don't think he was provisioned well enough to be able to handle that as someone who's probably quite a strange guy. So that really, and Matt says it, he says that this is the beginning of your downfall after they do the talent show and he does all the magic tricks and stuff. He's like, this is the beginning of your downfall. I can literally see your head exploding right now.
Yeah.
Getting so big.
And I think that's what triggers the whole, power hungry thing, is now he's become, popular amongst people. And not to mention, we've already mentioned that, the trouble things at home and things like that, which kind of drives him, right? Because he has an altercation at some point with his father back home, because he's having an issue with his mother, needs to get meds or something for her. And the father is snooping around his room, looking at shit, finds the camera, getting mad at him because he spent all this money on a camera when his mother's, dying over there, and calling him selfish. And you can really tell that, the father really resents him. There's a lot of resentment from the father just because, he's a hateful drunk, and, he's not only, the trauma from losing a good job and, on the verge of losing his wife who's on her deathbed. That's also mentally taking the tax on the father as well, to, now they're butting heads, and it turns into an altercation. And the father's now scared because now he has the power to beat the shit out of him and throw him around like a rag doll. And, the father's scared shitless. So
totally. Yeah. I honestly thought at that point that it was going to go too far, to the point where he was going to kill the dad at that point. I thought he was going to push him too hard against a wall or something, but like he really, I think he still holds it back, because at the end of the day it is his dad, even though they both have resentment for each other. He hates the fact that he's a fucking drunk, and he hates the fact that he's, different almost, is how it feels. And that's really like all of this, and it's really right after the crazy party that they go to at the Mad Mansion or whatever, and he ends up going with the girl with pink hair, and fucking throws up on her. Again, he wasn't provisioned to be this popular, or to be drinking like that, and
caught up to him.
Yeah, it did catch up to him. And again, that's when he starts to really get angry. As if he wasn't angry before, he now feels very isolated. Everyone at school starts to pass comments about how he threw up and stuff like that. One part that I specifically noted down is that, and he breaks the first rule. That's the downfall, right? And one thing I don't know if you noticed this, but like Andrew breaks all of the rules in sequence. So they're like, don't do it on living things, and he sees a spider crawling across the floor, and he rips it. And I'm not a fan of spiders, but seeing that was just like, ugh. That's awful. Then following that, he's like, don't use the powers in anger. And after he gets in a fight with his dad, he's flying up in the air, visibly upset. And that's when we know that they're physically bonded, because they can all sense each other now. And they all start to get nosebleeds, and they can hear each other. And Steve immediately rushes over. And it's at this point when it definitely takes a nosedive, because he uses his power in anger and casts in a crazy storm, which is already unsafe if you're up in the clouds because of all the thunder and like lightning there. There was no lightning strikes, and he ends up, pushing Steve, and it, I guess, causes a lightning bolt to flash through him, and he just drops to the ground. We don't see it at that point where he drops to the ground, but he ends up in the middle of a field somewhere and is dead. And the next thing that shows you is his funeral, which he is recording at. He's got the camera with him, and everyone's sad and crying, and Matt is just staring right through him.
He already knew something was up.
Yeah, he knows. He knew something happened. And he's trying to talk to him. He's just like, I want to talk to you, man. Like, turn the camera off. Let's talk. I've been trying to get a hold of you. Like, what happened up there? I know something happened. And he's just like, nothing. And then he kind of breaks the third rule in this point, where he's like, nothing in public. And he like makes the camera float. And then he's just like, he's like looking around because it's his family, people from school, everyone's around. And he's like, what the hell are you doing, man? Why are you doing this?
And then at that point, you can tell that it's taken a very Brightburn turn, because he's now he's broken all the rules. He's killed one of his good friends in the movie now, and there's no restrictions. All the restrictions are lifted, and he's ready to do his worst now. He feels like he's God at this point, because he's the strongest, because he actually honed his abilities, and he's very much stronger. They have the altercation with him and Matt, where he comes into his room and they're back and forth, and Matt tries to take a swing at him and can't get beyond a few inches from his face, and he tries to push and push and push, but Andrew's already too strong at that point. He's become Brightburn.
Yeah. He keeps calling himself an apex predator. He starts to really get this godlike complex that it's scary, like having that type of power and being someone that's like, now you don't see yourself as a human being anymore. You see yourself as above, right. Which is, horrifying. And he like crushes the car with his hands. He's just like sitting in the junkyard, and he's just like fucking junks up the car, man. It's insane. That's when he starts to get really reckless. The bully like starts to say stuff to him, and he like rips his teeth out.
Yeah.
And then he's in the bathroom, and he's like, okay, this one is an incisor or whatever. He's like, this was a clean pool, and this one's kind of broken, and like, because I got it at an angle. And then like, it's so strange the way that he's now acting. And it all comes to a head really when he goes to get his mom's medication, and he goes to the pharmacy, and they're like, listen, I already told your dad this. It's $700 for your mother's medication. He's like, I don't have that. So then he turns to using crime. He dresses up in a suit. He dresses his dad's fireman outfit, and starts to rob people. He robs the neighborhood bullies, who look like grown ass men, fucking picking on a kid. And then he robs a gas station, and that's really what leads to the big climax at the end, when he ends up pulling the shotgun from the gas station owner, and he shoots a tanker, and it fucking blows up the place, and he ends up with all these horrific burns all over him, and he's in hospital. And that's when his dad's like, yeah, your mom died. and starts to fucking go off on him.
And I think that's what drove him over the edge. You know, the body, the physical pain from the whole ordeal, the explosion, the mental pain from his father while he's in bed, telling him that it's all his fault and he's selfish and things like that, really pushed him over the edge
Yeah.
to become this horrible monster. And that's ultimately what we got. We got a monster, Andrew, now, that has blown out the hospital room, you know, in an altercation with his father again, and it's become on the news. Matt sees it. He rushes over there, and looking up at the top of the building, you can see Andrew with his father drops him down. Matt grabs him, picks him up, and that ensues the whole battle between them because Andrew's pissed because why did you catch him? He wanted him to die, and there he is breaking the rules again. Using his powers against others and
Yeah.
not to harm a living soul, a human. And this is where we're going. So this is like the highlight of the movie, though. It's because it's like a very Superman fight between two superheroes or two supercharged powered humans that are just going to town all over town, and it's just crazy. They're going through buildings, they're throwing vehicles at each other. It's just madness, dude. And everybody's just watching this shit happening. All the cops are trying to contain everything, and it's like, nope.
Yeah, there's literally nothing they can do. Nothing that the cops can do, unless they maybe shoot them down. But at that point, there's nothing you can do. And one really cool moment that came out of that is with all of because everything in this movie is really true. This is one that's very true to the found footage trope, where there's no real there's no outsider looking in cinematic moment. It's all in-world stuff, in-camera stuff. And because it's based in Seattle, they go up the Space Needle and they break out the window, and Andrew pulls out everyone's devices because everyone's filming it there, and he surrounds himself with all these devices, and you see the police helicopter cams as they're flying around. So seeing all this different type of footage really lends itself to get these really crazy cinematic shots that really help immerse you in the story. And it's when he's got all the cameras around him and he's giving his speech about how he's an apex predator and how he's a god type thing. And yeah, they really go at it.
That whole part there with the devices and the helicopter camera, really genius on the director's side, because how would you break not doing a found footage movie up in the air when two supercharged humans are going at it? And then what better way to add to Andrew's madness by pulling devices and putting them out to film this whole thing that's going on, the madness that's happening. And it was a super genius part on the director.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was really really very smart. It really helps to push the story along, because you see it even from other people's point of views. If people are filming on the street, or there's other police officers filming with their dash cams, or the camera from the helicopter that's following them around. And yeah, really the only way to stop someone like that is you have to kill them. There's no I really didn't see any other way, because it's Matt, that's his literal family right there. And he's like, I've got no other choice, because he would continue. I don't think that there would be a way past it for Andrew. I don't think he would suddenly just calm down and things would be fine.
He's so far gone.
Yeah, he's too far gone at that point. And it's quite an ingenious way of doing it, because they have the statue, and it's kind of I don't know what it is, but he's got a trident, or a staff, or
a spear.
Yeah, that's the word. And he has a spear, and it's it's the statue, and it just flies down and shoots through him, and he's stuck in the ground and kills him immediately. Like it's
And
not
that's
as
how
if
you neutralize a crazy person.
yeah, like the cops weren't going to be able to stop him, right? He was going to be blocking all the bullets. He pushed them all away with his powers, and yeah, he's like, don't make me do it. He gave him fair warning. He's like, you're going to make me do it, and he has to neutralize him.
He kebabbed the shit out of Andrew.
Yeah, and it's probably very following that. There was probably a sense of loneliness from from Matt, because the three of them were all on this journey together. They all learned together, and they had that bond together. And
Right.
now, because of that, he's the only one left. Steve was killed senselessly, really, and Andrew was killed out of necessity to stop the madness that had overcome him. And I think really that it's such an emotionally driven film. Like when you really peel back the layers of this, like there's a lot of emotion here, a lot of tough subjects for teenagers really to experience. Domestic violence, bullying, ridicule, and then also like a coming of age, because they've found these powers that they've now got at such a young age that they really don't understand, and they just sort of
Yeah, and you don't understand the toll that it's taking on the human body, because unless there was some kind of like cellular genetic alteration there to be able to hold these powers.
right.
You got to imagine what kind of toll it's going to take on human brain to to use all this power, this force that they're using. So and it really doesn't dive into that, of course, but it gives you a sense of the toll that it's taking because of all the nosebleeds.
Right.
You can tell that it takes a great amount of use of the brain, because there's always nosebleeds.
Yeah, that was definitely a point that I picked up on as well. Especially towards as we progress and get towards the end, like that's when they really start to ramp up and they're really connected. So it's like, what the fuck what is this thing that they've unlocked or whatever? And also as well, who knows if they were the only ones? We assume just because of the fact that the hole in the ground was filled up and had caved in, that it was just them. But there could have been others that were impacted by
Right.
this in a lower degree. Who knows? And it alters your chemistry, brain chemistry, your body chemistry.
Just hits all the chemistries.
Yeah, all the chemistries were just fucking in this. But I found it rather philosophical, and it was Matt. He was the philosophical one. I found it quite interesting, the fact that the way that they end it is that it cuts to Matt obviously escapes from the police. He goes to they go to try to surround him, and he just takes off, right? I mean, you're not going to stick around and get arrested when you've got fucking superpowers, right? So he just flew away.
Right.
And from there, I think the way that Matt handles it, he takes the camera with him, and he clearly, and what I took was that he went on like a journey around the world, went to all the places that he spoke about, really did it in memory of both of them. We don't see him go to Hawaii, but he likely went there for Steve. But what we do see is that he ends up in Tibet, which is an area in which Andrew was the one
Very much wanting to go to.
Yeah, and he's just looking dead in the camera. He's like, Andrew, I'm sorry. I truly am. I had to do it, but I'm sorry. But I made it. We made it here. And he shows off the Tibetan monastery and like all the architecture and all that, and he just sort of puts it there, and he's just like, this is for you, man. It just leaves the camera running, and that's when he shoots off. And yeah, we get the credits rolling, which is this is a hard hitting film.
Yeah, it
You
is.
really peel it back.
But so well done, man. I mean, it's one of the few ones out there that, there's nothing really bad you can say about it. Everything was good. Everything was done so well. I don't have one complaint about this movie whatsoever.
I'll be I'll be devil's advocate here in one minuscule piece, and it's that end part. How the hell did we see that footage if he just leaves the camera in fucking Tibet? Right? That's literally, honestly, that is the only thing that I can like put out about that movie that is even remotely, not positive, because it's not even a negative. It's just a really, really, really nitpicky thing that's just from a found footage fan.
And I mean, I guess you can, if you really stopped and thought about it, you can justify the fact that being a found footage movie, somebody found it in the snow. I mean, it's possible he came back for it later and, it ended up somewhere. But the first one is more likely of the two that, somebody found it and, this is somebody playing it. But you really don't see that in the beginning or the end where somebody has found the actual footage, right? It's just the perspective from the camera or the cameras that picked up all this stuff. So it's I can see your point in that, but the story was just so good it's easily overlooked, right?
Totally, yeah, I agree. It's one that I can definitely overlook that. I think it's just a funny part when you think of it, like who the fuck is finding this, and like, because it looked like it was like a remote area that was just covered in snow in Tibet somewhere. That I just thought it was quite funny to think about, but
it would have been a cool bit if they put it like a monk found it that was going through the snow and traveling like to a nearby village or something, and happened to find it, picked it up, and looked at the camera, lens, and maybe like you see Matt flying overhead or something, and it cuts to a cue. Maybe something like that could have been different, but it's fine the way it is.
Totally.
I think it was a good ending. I mean, you could have gone different directions, but in the end, it's up to the person who's making the movie, right? How you want to end it.
For sure. So this movie was made by Josh Trank, is the director, and it was co-written, and the screenplay was written by Max Landis. I don't know if you recognize that last name. John Landis.
Yeah. The guy from what is it called? Not Seventh Heaven. Highway to Heaven.
No, he's a famous film director. He did John Landis did, and I'll pull it up right now. John Landis did like Animal House, Blues Brothers, Trading Places, Twilight Zone, American Werewolf in London. He directed the Michael Jackson Thriller video.
You know who I was thinking of? Michael Landon.
I don't even know who that is.
You don't know who that is?
No.
No, it's an American show that he came out in. It was a very like spiritual, religious type show. I think it was called A Highway to Heaven or something like that.
Right. Yeah. No. No. It's John Landis is the guy's name, and his son wrote this. He got in a bit of bother, but so and specifically he was actually banned from the set. I was reading up about this. He was actually banned from the set at one point because he was making people feel uncomfortable. Max Landis, that is. He's just a bit of a creep. So I mean that definitely puts like a little bit of a smudge on it, but it's mostly like it's got nothing to do with the cast or this is really just the guy who wrote it.
Right.
Josh Trank is the guy who directed it, and yeah, he had. I feel like he's done some other things as well. That when I saw that he had made this, I was like, oh damn, that's pretty cool. He did the Fantastic Four, with Michael B. Jordan in it.
Ah, so they already have that rapport.
He directed that. He also directed the movie Capone with Tom Hardy. So he only did 3 films. He only made 3 films. Chronicle,
Wow.
Fantastic Four, and Capone.
Jeez, man, John Landis did a lot of good movies. He did The Blues Brothers, Trading Places, Coming to America, Three Amigos, Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, he's
Mhm.
done a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, John Landis is awesome, and it's
He
his
even did the
son.
movie Clue.
Yeah, it's such a great movie. So fucking good. Um, yeah, his son. He wrote the movie Victor Frankenstein. He wrote the script for it. He wrote the script for that movie Bright. You know, the one that's on Netflix with Will Smith, with like the monster cop, like orc thing. It's like
Which
set in
one?
like, it's called Bright. I've never seen it, but
Oh,
I'd
yes,
heard of
yes, the
it.
one with Will Smith, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
Max
saw it.
Landis was a writer for that. He wrote the script for that. And American Ultra with Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty powerful Hollywood connections here. So I can. It's definitely a reason as to why this had such a high budget, why it was produced by 20th Century Fox, why it had such crazy good effects. Those types of connections. I mean, it's easy to see how it did so fucking well, honestly.
Right.
And it's a fantastic film that I've lost count how many times I've actually recommended it to people, genuinely.
I mean, it's a good movie, and it's weird because a lot of people have seen it in passing, but don't recall until you mention it, right? They're like, "Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I've seen that movie before," but they really don't remember anything. They go back and watch it and forget how good of a movie this really was.
yeah, it was sick, so sick. Um, yeah, I was really excited when we found out that Emil had mentioned that one of his favorite found footage movies was Chronicle. Um, for how well it did at the box office, it's not one that's mentioned too often in found footage circles, which is crazy. Um, I think because of round about that period in time, between 2008 to 2015 ish, maybe even slightly after that, found footage got a bit of a bad rap. So it was right in that middle spot. But this was a commercial success for sure. Like this is a
Yeah,
great one. This is on the lines of Cloverfield with that high budget, high concept found footage, which I fucking love about this. Like, if they probably could have got away with some aspects, but I think the fact that it really felt larger than life really helped it, and to stay true to the found footage elements is really quite commendable as well. So
I agree.
yeah.
What I really would like to see, though, and I know you and I talked about this earlier on, that before we started recording, that it would have been really cool to see a sequel out of this, more of an origin of, um, more as to where this thing came from and what it is. And there were talks, throughout the years after it came out, thinking of doing a sequel. Things didn't work out at the studio. Things happened with the director, stuff like that. And the last little chatter was back in 2021, I think I saw, where they were thinking of the sequel to be more of a female-led
Hmm.
new group of kids that get these same powers and what happens to them. But it's been quiet since 2021, so who's to say? You see movies, and again, something we talked about earlier, like As Above, So Below, getting a sequel some years down the road. It's not crazy to think that we would see a Chronicle 2 come out here in the coming years.
True. Yeah. And I'll be honest, I don't know how I'd feel about that. I don't know how I feel about the As Above, So Below sequel. Like, I think as a fan of it, you want to see more, but also as a fan of it, you're like, don't mess with the original, because realistically, like, I don't like this. To me, is a perfect film. Genuinely, from a found footage fan, I think this is one of those perfect fucking found footage movies out there. High budget, high concept. Like I said, this is one that, me personally, I don't think it needs a sequel. And I think similar to, and we also spoke about this recently, similar to The Craft did not need a sequel. And what they put out was pales in comparison to the original. And the original came out in the 90s. And
Right.
It was doing the stuff then, and then they brought it out a couple of years ago, and I was just like, oh.
And you could tell the politics of the movie was very driven as far as the whole concept of the movie and things like that. So I won't go into details about all that because everyone will have different opinions, of course. But that's yeah. And I differ a little bit in that sense. Like, if I feel a movie gets a sequel, I'm all for it, because if there's unanswered questions in a movie that I would like to know, even if it was a shit movie, the sequel, I'll watch it until we get to where it starts not pertaining to the story anymore. Now it just becomes ridiculous and it just becomes uninteresting. At that point, I think we need to stop. At some point, we have to close out the story. If we get a sequel, great, or we can close it out, answer the questions, that's great, but we don't need like a Scream 30 and the grandchildren of Billy Loomis's grandchildren is out to carry on the legacy and shit. That's getting a little bit out of hand here.
Totally. Yeah, I don't see there being a Chronicle franchise per se, but I mean, if they did end up doing a sequel, I don't think it, unless they get like everyone back and they get this guy to direct it again, and they're like almost the same, like the round two type thing, or even if it was the same guy who was associated with it and who worked on it originally, because then you get that experience of dealing with it and being in that realm. When things like that happen, I'm a bit less apprehensive about it. As Above, So Below, it's slightly different because we know that the creator, the director of the original, is actually involved at the helm of making this sequel, supposedly. So that, I dig that. I always dig that. But sometimes it's almost just like, it feels like a cash grab.
And that's where it feels like a cash grab to me. If the same people aren't involved who created the movie, that's where it becomes like, look at Lost Boys, for example. There was 2 sequels to that movie, and it wasn't the same director as the original one, which was it Jerry Bruckheimer?
No, it was. Oh, shit, who did it? Because I should know it.
Joel Schumacher was.
Joel Schumacher, that's the one who did. I think he passed away recently. In the last little bit, I think so. He did Batman. One of the Batmans, one of the sequels with like George Clooney or Val Kilmer or whatever.
Oh, I got you. Batman Forever.
Batman Forever. Yeah, I think that was him who did that. But yeah, I'd be curious to see if they did a sequel. I'd be curious to know who's involved. It would be my first thought. So yeah,
that was Chronicle.
That was Chronicle. And I've written the word Chronicle so many times that I don't know if you've ever done this, when you like write or look at a word so often that it doesn't begin to make any sense. Like you look at it and you look at it, you're like, that's not a word.
Why is it spelled this way?
Right. I'm like, what?
We hit that point where it's time to rape this sucker.
Hell yeah. And I think we're probably going to be on the same page.
I know we're going to be on the same page.
We're probably not. We've gone into this movie in quite a lot of depth. I think so. I don't think we're going to take too much of your time to tell you that, at least from my perspective, I think this is the most perfect candidate for a golden tape. I feel like we made golden tapes for movies like this that
Yeah,
are just
absolutely.
so perfect. So I think it's going to be double golden tape, right?
Double golden tape. It's a gold standard for this movie right here, and it's not very many movies that make it in this category. So, but this one definitely holds a place in the golden tape tier because of how well it was done. Such a high budget movie, and there's aside from the minor gap at the beginning and the end, I mean the entire movie itself overshadows those little itty bitty bits of things that you could argue a point on why weren't they in the movie. But solid golden tape all the way around.
Hell yeah.
Good cast, excellent storytelling, excellent action, excellent sci-fi horror. I mean, it hits all the points that a good movie should be hitting, and I love this movie. I couldn't um, I couldn't suggest this or recommend this movie enough. If you're if you're in with found footage, there's more horror than anything, right? So everybody's so used to found footage horror that they either forget or don't go beyond that to see the found footage that is in um, mysteries, disappearances of people, sci-fi that involves aliens, things like that. And there's such good ones out there that are in these other genres of found footage that people haven't tapped into yet. So if you want something that'll take up an hour and a half of your time and you're not going to regret it at the end, I highly recommend this movie.
Hell yeah. Yeah, this is one like I said, I've recommended this a number of times to people. And everyone said that they loved it. I own 3 copies of this movie. One on DVD, which we may have gotten rid of. One on Blu-ray, and then a really super cool steelbook that I have. One thing I'm actually curious on watching, which I didn't watch for the purposes of this episode, is they have a director's cut, which I now that I've watched it twice in the last few weeks, I think I'm going to revisit that at some point to see what differences I can find in the director's cut. So that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be cool. I've not seen the director's cut. I didn't know that there was a director's cut. So yeah.
So
That would be pretty cool to check out. Is
yeah.
that oh yeah. So I see the Blu-ray copy that says 2 versions theatrical. So it's interesting to see what turn they take in the director's cut. If there's an alternate ending, what's different inside of it. Does that steelbook have the alternate ending or the alternate of the director's cut?
Yep, Steelbook has the director's cut. The Blu-ray has the director's cut. I think the DVD also has the director's cut as well, which I just haven't gotten to. I think before this, I wasn't as familiar with it in terms of like my memory. I always remember being blown away the first time I seen this, and it really stuck with me. And but didn't know it well enough to be able to spot differences, and I think I'll be able to do that now. I've seen it a few more times to refresh my memory, so I'm quite excited about that. This movie comes in at about 1 hour 29 minutes. I again watched it on Blu-ray. You can rent it on Amazon, Apple, YouTube. Like you can rent it. I'm not sure if there's any streaming services that have it, but if there are, you can find it on there. But yeah, that brings us to the end of the episode. I've had such a blast talking about this. I hold this in such high regard, and if you loved it, definitely let us know in the comments. Be sure to follow us anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether that is Spotify, on Apple Music, on Amazon. We're also on YouTube and also on Instagram. All We Found a Tape.
And just a quick bit before we end this podcast, how cool would it be? We've seen a lot of first-time things in found footage as far as styles, the way things are done in found footage, new camera angles. I think one thing that hasn't been done and would be cool to see, somebody's going to break the barrier and do it at some point, would be a crossover of found footage movies. Like, whether it's a monster movie let's just say for shits and giggles, Frogman versus Mothman, something like that. It would be very cool to see a crossover in found footage movies. Um, but yeah, let's see what director decides to break out of the box and pull this one off. That would be very cool to see.
Hell yeah.
Well, everyone, thank you again for tuning in for another episode of We Found a Tape. Uh, Everybody, be safe out there. Have a good day. And remember, be kind and rewind.